everybody. Today we are going to be finishing off the elements of design, and we're going to cover the rest of them by going over space, shape and form, pattern and texture. I do apologize with one of my biggest symptoms with COVID is I have a pretty nasty cough, so if I start coughing, I'm sorry, but we are going to get through this as fast as possible because I can't talk very much. But we're going to finish off the elements of design today. Let's first talk about space. Space is the area in which the designer works. So if you hire a designer to work in your entire house, the entire house is their space. If you hire a designer to just redesign your bathroom, the bathroom is their space. And the same with the kitchen. Wherever the designer works is their space. Positive space is filled space, and negative space is empty space. To expand the look of space, you can use light and cool colors, mirrors, smooth textures, smaller scale and less furniture. And to enclose a space, you can use dark and warm colors, rough textures, larger scale furniture, and accessories. Here's an example of two different kitchen designs, one of which using positive space and one of which using negative. Remember, negative is space that is not filled. Positive space is filled space. So that would make the picture on the left be an example of negative space, and the picture on the right be an example of positive space. Here we have an example of a room that is using black as one of their main colors, and black is kind of it's a dark color. It's very, very bold. It's very in right now. It's very trendy, and I love the color black in design. But you need to be careful when you use the color black because you don't want to completely enclose the space completely. So if you look at this room, this is a really good example of using lighter colors to offset the black so it doesn't look like it's completely closed in. Number one, they have a very large vaulted ceiling that they have painted a white or a cream. They have a light carpet. They've got a light bench. They've got a semi-light bedspread, and they've got a lot of light in there as well, and that helps balance out the use of black in that space. Here we have a space that uses very, very dark colors, and you can see how it and a lot of rougher textures. And as you can see, it closes in the space a lot more. Here we have an example of a very small space, but it doesn't look necessarily super small because of how they decided to use their space. They used smaller scale furniture. They used smaller nightstands, smaller lamps, very minimal wall decorations, and then also their closet doors from floor to ceiling are mirrors, and mirrors always expand the look of space. And so you can see that even if you have a really small space, that doesn't mean that you necessarily have to have a small bed. This is easily a full-size bed or a queen. And they were able to still fit that in there by doing smaller scale and lighter scale furniture as well. You can tell they also have really light bedding. And so this is a really good example of using small space to your advantage. Here we have another example of small space and smaller scale furniture, a smaller rug. All these things kind of help open the space up a little bit. Light colors. Okay, and then we have shape and form. Shape is the two-dimensional outline of an object, so your square, circle, triangle, rectangle. And then your form is a three-dimensional object, so cones, cylinders, spheres, cubes, prisms, etc. If it's 2D, it's shape. If it's 3D, it's form. Texture is the surface quality of objects. It can be both seen visually and felt tactily. You can tell if something has a really rough texture usually by just looking at it. You don't necessarily have to feel it. You can feel it to make sure, but you can always see texture. It's really cool that way. Rough texture absorbs light. It's informal, and it can be both visually or tactically rough. Smooth texture reflects light. It's formal, and it can be both visually or tactically smooth. Here are some examples of some smooth textures. You have this vase and this counter, and then you have this kitchen as an example of a smooth texture. You've got the smooth stainless steel sink. You have the smooth backsplash. You have the smooth countertops. You have the relatively smooth cabinets. The cabinets still have grooves in them and things like that because that's how cabinets look. But it is a smooth finish. Here you have another example of smooth texture used throughout in this bathroom. You've got it in the flooring. You have it in the bath. You have it in the mirrors, the windows. You've got the smooth granite countertop, the glass bottom, the sleek metal legs on the vanity. Everything in this bathroom is very much using the use of a smooth texture. Then we also have it in this next one with the glass vases and the steel table. You can tell that it's a nice smooth slate. Here we have some examples of some rough textures being used. In the first picture, you can see it's being used in the flooring, in the brick wall. in the ceiling, the wood on the ceiling. Here you can see it on the vase in the next picture, and then in the basket on the third picture. Here you have some examples of rough texture as well being used in that table, and then in the next picture you got it in the wood beams, the wood ceiling, the rock wall, the stone floor. All of those are examples of rough textures. You have another example here of the difference between rough and smooth. You got in the first picture, you can see that even the backsplash is rough. The sink has a rough texture to it. Even the wood on the cabinets have a rough texture. Versus the picture on the right that's got smooth cabinets, smooth countertops, a porcelain smooth sink, and a smooth backsplash. Pattern is the repetition of color, lines, shape, or design across a surface to create visual interest. You can see that that pattern is used in the mosaic type tile that's being used on these stairs. And then light makes things visible through illumination by nature. Obviously, sun, moon, and fire light things up. That's how you used to receive light before we had electricity. And then, or electrical devices, incandescent, fluorescent, halogen, and LED. And we do talk about, we go into more depth in lighting and interior design too, if you are interested. I'm not going to really spend a lot of time talking about it here. But you get light in two different ways, both naturally and electrically. Okay, now we will be doing 3D rooms. However, we are not going to start them until I get back after I'm out of quarantine. So, right now, what your guys' assignment is going to be is to go and take the Unit 1 and 2 test. And then we will move on to Unit 3 the next week. And then after Unit 3, we'll come back and we'll do the 3D rooms. If you have any questions, please shoot me an email.